So the CPI data has been released, and as we did expect, it is kind of high, but how high is it? And what will this mean for the stock market and for the crypto market? Will everything dump now? What will the dollar do? Will the dollar pump? Let's get right into it. So we can see that the CPI data has been released, friends, and it is, here we can see inflation rate 9.1% year over year. Oh my God. That is even higher than the 8.6 that we had in May. So that is a pretty high CPI, okay, Consumer Price Index. But in this CPI, there's also energy and food prices, okay? However, energy and food prices are kind of volatile, okay? They are kind of volatile. So the more interesting metric is actually the core CPI. And the core CPI, believe it or not, is actually falling. We can see that the core CPI has actually peaked here in March, right? It has peaked in March at 6.5. And it has been constantly coming down now, month over month, 6.5 to 6.2 in April, 6.0 in May, and now 5.9. So that is actually fascinating that despite the CPI rising, the core CPI has actually been falling. And now that is why the market is sending some kind of mixed signals now. Should we pump? Should we dump? Even the dollar doesn't know. Should we pump? Should we dump? The market was indecisive, but now it looks as if the dollar index would prepare to dump, which is kind of fascinating. So this again seems to have been a classical buy the rumor, sell the news type of situation, where before the dollar is pumping, right, buy the rumor and then sell the news, now it is dumping. Because the fact that the core CPI is coming down, many people maybe believe now that this will make the Fed not super hawkish, because the core CPI is really the most important metric with which the Fed is actually deciding if they will raise or not raise the interest rates, by how much they raise, and so on and so forth. So if the core CPI comes down, that means the Fed might not be as hawkish as we would have believed. So maybe they will not raise by 100 basis point hike in July. Maybe they will raise only 75, maybe even only 50. We will see at the next Fed meeting that will take place on the 27th of July. So we can see now the odds have suddenly changed. So the odds for a 75 basis point hike are now at 50%, but the odds of a 100 basis point hike, so a full 1% interest rate hike, are now at 49.9%. This is absolutely crazy. And look at this. Nobody is expecting a 50 basis point hike. 0.0%. Look here. This is insanity. So if the Fed would now, for whatever reason, say, hey guys, a 50 basis point hike should be enough, because after all, the core CPI data reveals that core CPI is coming down. If that would happen, friends, what do you think would happen with the stock market? What do you think would happen with crypto? What do you think would happen with the dollar? I can tell you what would happen. If the Fed only raises by 50 basis points at the end of July, we will get massive, incredible rallies in the stock market and consequently also in the crypto market. If already now the dollar is dumping, that is of course a quite surprisingly weak sign, because everybody was thinking that the dollar would be pumping now on this actually quite bullish news for the dollar index, right? So this is kind of a fascinating situation that we have, and the fact the core CPI is coming down means that maybe the Fed will not be as hawkish at the meeting in the end of July as everybody thinks. Now, going to the NASDAQ, we see that the NASDAQ has first tricked us by breaking out of this long-term descending triangle or descending wedge, which normally is a bullish structure. And in the last videos, I was already quite happy to see this breakout here, but then it fell again below the resistance line that now had become support. but now it appears that it's again going above this line here, which is quite the fascinating behavior. So we will see how the daily candle closes today. But if we manage to remain above this line here, chances, friends, are really good that this could develop into some kind of bounce scenario, especially if the Fed now in late July hikes lower than expected. If they would hike by only 50 basis points, that would be super bullish for the stock market, and we could see a massive rally unfolding, especially because everybody now is insanely bearish. Everybody, including their grandmother and their dog and their I don't know what, are super bearish. So if now, because of this core CPI data, the Fed is also on top, not as hawkish, friends, then we will go into a nice rally. I don't know if we will make new all-time highs. That I do not know, but at least we should get some kind of epic bounce, and who knows, maybe afterwards we will go lower, but at least some kind of bounce, because this market is ridiculously oversold. Okay, this market is ridiculously oversold, and we still see that there is still this hidden bullish divergence at play in the NASDAQ here in the one-day chart. Lower lows in the price, higher lows in the RSI. So I'm waiting for this bounce to come. I'm waiting for this bounce to happen. And since the market is so oversold, any kind of even moderately good news, like even mediocre news that is actually not so awesome good news, is already taken as amazing news, and the market just wants to pump. Now, looking at the volatility of the NASDAQ, that is quite interesting. We have already talked quite a few times about the VIX, the volatility of the S&P 500. Here, the volatility index of the NASDAQ, the VXN, you see has these insane spikes here, and these insane spikes correspond to large drops in the NASDAQ, okay? So what do we see here? We have a fascinating triangle in the formation. And this triangle could indeed break to the downside. And a break to the downside means that we get pumps. A break to the upside means that we get dumps. So we should really keep an eye on this triangle. However, should this support line here break, then, friends, we could really see a nice bounce in the NASDAQ, and consequently also a nice bounce in the stock market, because it's quite unlikely that the NASDAQ will rally without the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones also rallying in some form. Now, the crypto market, here's the Bitcoin index, our long-term Bitcoin chart in the weekly. We see Bitcoin did not react strongly. First, it dumped a bit. Okay, yeah, it started dropping a bit because the dollar pretended to start pumping. But now suddenly it does not anymore, and this interesting line still seems to be intact. Of course, we don't know if Bitcoin is printing a bear flag right now, or is this some kind of triangle structure. We don't know yet. However, I suspect that if the dollar index will continue dropping, as it is doing right now, if this will be a bigger drop, okay, so if this will be something like this here, I strongly suspect that the stock market will pump more, and consequently Bitcoin will also pump, because Bitcoin, as we have said quite a few times, is quite embarrassingly just following the stock market, because Bitcoin has become very correlated to the stock market, as we know, okay? So right now we have to see if this dump in the dollar index will develop into something larger. If yes, we could be lucky and the NASDAQ could continue pumping, right? We could see something developing out of this one here. The NASDAQ, especially if the Fed in the meeting of the end of July is not as super hawkish as everybody thinks, then we could get a nice bounce, and Bitcoin consequently could break out of this triangle to the upside, okay? I still maintain my view that Bitcoin should in a bounce at least reach this logarithmic downtrend line here, possibly even break through it. Now, of course, what happens afterwards, we could retest the lows again afterwards, and this was a fake breakout, right? Bitcoin loves to do these fake breakouts. Or, of course, if we are lucky and the market now rallies more than we have anticipated, this could, of course, turn directly into an unexpected rally where Bitcoin goes directly to new highs. But I personally see the chance for that not so insanely high, to be honest. So we see the fact that the CPI reading was high with 9.1% did not mean that we would get instant dumps in the stock market and instant dumps in the crypto market. In fact, the dollar index is really struggling a lot. It is struggling a lot right now, and there are some indications for a larger dump happening. And also we should not forget the Euro USD chart, because here the Euro USD chart looks like a bottoming structure, and we have actually hit, it hit 0.9999. Amazing. So if we are lucky, actually this has been the bottom of the Euro USD, and we know that the Euro USD and crypto always rally together, right? That is also something that is not known by some people. But if we overlay the Euro and the Bitcoin chart, friends, we do see that the crypto market and the Euro rally together, which is of course logical because the Euro is inversely correlated to the dollar index, exactly like Bitcoin. Bitcoin also rises most when the dollar index is falling. So friends, we will have to wait and see how the dollar index develops, okay? Will this turn into a bigger dump? Will this turn into a dump like this one here before we might continue pushing upwards? Will this happen? If yes, the chances are really good that we might get at least a strong intermittent bounce in the stock market and in the crypto market. Or if we are lucky, we might even go directly to new all-time highs, although I currently have to say that this scenario for me is a bit more unlikely, but it is not impossible. That is my current picture, friends. If you found this video interesting or helpful, please like this video and maybe even consider subscribing to this channel, because I'm making daily updates on the stock market, on Bitcoin and the crypto market. And I decided that in the future I will start taking a look at individual stocks and go also a bit more into the analysis of the stock market in general, and also take a look at some specific stocks, such as, for example, Tesla or other interesting disruptive technology companies. Thanks for watching, have a nice day, and see you in the next crypto video tomorrow. Ciao!